This study was conducted at Tigas Dairy Gold Research Farm in Morpeth Island for over 9 days in May 2017. A herd of 84 Holstein Friesian cows was managed using a 4-way rotational grazing system, and they are milked with a Lady Astronaut automatic milking robot. 18 cows were randomly selected, excluding the first-time calvers, and they are fitted with Rumi Watch sensors. This included a noseband sensor to track chewing and a pedometer to record movement. Behavioral data were collected continuously at high resolution, and the first day's data was excluded to allow for sensor adaptation. The data were processed into 3-hour intervals and daily summaries using the Rumi Watch software, and they are analyzed in the Excel software. And lastly, key behaviors such as grazing time, bite rate, rumination, and walking were calculated to assess how cows adapted to the high-tech grazing systems.
So it have three problems. The first one is limited coverage and cost. It only occur for the small number of call like 18 out of the 84 were monitored. It also full herd monitoring is expensive and may not be feasible and commercial for the farm. And it also sensor require careful fitting and may cause a discomfort or dislogging. So the second one is complex data handling. It's very high frequency data like 10 has created a large file that needs to expert analysis. It also the farmer may lack of the tool or the skill to interpret that the data, and also it no real-time decision for the support tool were integrated with the system. The lastly is short-term testing and adaptation issue. The study occur duration like 8 days, so it's very short for the full behavior assessment. The first day the data will escalate like due to sensor adaptation, and then it's gonna be like long-term impact for the sensational variety were not captured. So it have three solutions. The first one is affordable and scalable monitoring. So it used to target or monitor for the selected animal to reduce the cost. So it also encourages cost sharing between the farm of the true cooperative. The last way is promote the development of the lower cost farmer ready and version for Rumi for border users. So the second one is simple and actionable data. It turns complex data in easy to visual and summarize. It also use mobile apps with the clear dashboard, automatic alerts, and also practical grazing of health recommendation. The last one is longer trial and better sensor fit. So we extend the study duration to capture sensational change and the longer term effect. So it designs sensor that easier to fit and more comfortable for the cow to reducing the need for their adaptation time.
In this study, the mean and standard deviation for each behavioral parameter was recorded by the Rumi Watch sensors. For instance, the grazing time, rumination, and walking. The mean represents the average value across all 18 cows. For example, the average grazing time was 468 minutes per day, meaning this was the typical amount of time for cows to spend grazing each day. The standard deviation shows how much the values varied between individual cows. A standard deviation of 116 minutes for grazing means that while some cows graze more, others will graze less, but most stay close to the average. By reporting both the mean and standard deviation, the study gives a clearer picture, not just of typical behavior, but also how consistent or variable the behavior was within the group. In this part of the results, we will focus on 5 important behavioral indicators measured using the Rumi Watch system. Each parameter is presented with its mean value, which shows the average across all cows, and its standard deviation, which shows how much individual cows varied from the average. For grazing bite frequency, the cows had a mean bite rate of 68 bites per minute, with a standard deviation of minus plus 6. This low variation suggests that cows showed relatively consistent feeding intensity across the group. For grazing bouts, the average number of grazing sessions per day was 7 bouts, with a standard deviation of plus minus 2. This means that most cows follow a similar pattern of feeding, through a few graze more or less frequently. Moving on to rumination chews per bolus, The average was 53 chews per bolus with a standard deviation of minus plus 7. This indicates a stable rumination behavior among cows, which is a good sign of healthy digestion. For rumination bouts, the cows average about 14 bouts per day, with a standard deviation of plus minus 3. This again shows consistent behavior as rumination tends to follow grazing and rest periods. And lastly, we have walking time. The cows spend an average of 93 minutes per day walking with a standard deviation of plus minus 42 minutes. This wider variation suggests that some cows were much more active than others, possibly due to individual movement patterns or paddock distance.
So in this study, the demonstration of the Rumi watch system is very effective tool for the monitoring cow behavior in four-way rational grazing system integrated with an automatic milking system (AMS). The data collected confirmed that the cow maintained the natural behavior patterns such as two main grazing periods of the dawn and dusk. Despite that, the increased complexity of the grazing layout and the milking system. That's all for us. Thank you.